The slightest bit more pressure, and this is where our failure point is. Brace for impact. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Pat the Movies. I am Pat, and pardon the mess in the background here. I am 3D printing a wristwatch, which I think a lot of you old-timers will appreciate, and I certainly look forward to getting into that and finishing it all up. But while I was working on this, I had a thought that had to do with my last video where I printed like a flower pot type of thing, and I filled it with resin. I printed it hollow, and I filled it with resin to give it a lot of structural integrity and make it a lot more durable for living outside. So I thought I would take that concept and go a little further with it. And what I'm going to be doing is essentially taking a 3D print that is meant to be structurally sound, like it's meant to hold things and hold weight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print two versions, one with a standard 20% infill, and I'm going to print another one hollow. But partway through the print, I'm going to stop the print and I'm going to add rebar to it. Rebar in a 3D print, that seems a little weird. Well, I'm not going to be doing it in the traditional sense. I'm just going to be I have a bunch of old nails and some old wires and things like that, and I will fill the hollow print with chunks of metal, let it complete the print, sealing up the metal inside of the print, and then I'll punch a little hole in the back, fill everything with resin. So what we will eventually have is a 3D printed shell filled with resin and essentially rebar to create something that is extremely structurally strong and practically indestructible. So without any further ado, let us get into the print. So the first order of business here is to print our control sample. This is just a standard PETG print of that hook file. It's printing in Hatchbox PETG on a Prusa Mini. And for this, nothing complicated, just printing the hook as if I were planning on using it as is somewhere in my home. Thanks to this, we got a nice baseline, and we'll be able to accurately see how much stronger our second print will turn out. And for the second print, you can see it had a little bit of trouble. PETG can be sticky, but I'm not going for accuracy as far as the print is concerned. I'm just going for effectiveness. This is a prototype, and I'm just kind of brute forcing my way through it. So like I said, this print, printing hollow, and we're going to be filling it up with rebar, aka nails, and bits of metal I had lying around the shop, and resin. So in order to accomplish this, I paused the print at around 85%, so that the top layer had not been put down yet. And so as you can see, I went into my handy dandy jar of nails that I've harvested from old boards and all sorts of things. And these are already all bent up, so they were kind of perfect for what I was looking for. And I had to do some bending on my own, but in the end, I got that whole interior space really jam-packed full of pieces of metal. In fact, if I were to do this again, would have gone a little bit easier on the metal, because here, when I start the printing process, again, you can see the nozzle runs afoul of one of those nails, and it nearly ruined the print. But like I said, just going for effectiveness, and the print completed and is good enough, so luckily didn't have to redo anything. But for sure learned my lesson, and don't tell my wife I did that. So now we're on to actually drilling a little hole in the back of our print. And I just did this by hand, just took a screw and kind of punched a little bit of a hole, and then took whatever tools and drill bits or whatever I had laying around the shop to kind of carve out a hole that was big enough that I was confident I could pour the resin down there, no problem. If I really wanted to be careful, I would have made a little funnel, maybe even printed a little funnel on the tail there. There's lots of different ways that you can go about this. And the resin I'm using to fill this up is Bondo fiberglass resin. I love this stuff. It's super cheap. It's about 15 bucks for a big old can of the stuff. I typically do smaller batches, about an ounce of resin, gets 10 drops of hardener. If you saw my last video, you will know that I apparently have no idea what an ounce is, so please do your own measuring. I'm apparently very bad at it. Here we are. You couldn't see the jump, but we did indeed jump forward a couple hours, and you can see the resin has dried. And one of my favorite things, this is parchment paper, and absolutely nothing in the entire world sticks to it. It is a poor person's silicone mat. And you can see our 20% infill has definitely different properties to our resin and rebar hook. And here I'm just cleaning up the resin print just because some resin got on the outside and it was a little grody looking, so just sanding it down and kind of just doing what I can to make it a little bit more presentable. Like I said, not going for a super polished look to either of these prints. So yeah, doesn't look fantastic, but we're not going for looks, we're going for performance, and we're gonna go see how well this thing holds up. Alright, time to get scientific and test these things out. Here I have mounted the 20% infill hook, and you can see I actually used a screw that was too big, and this is just I suppose, a slight proof of concept before the actual test. It did crack the print a little bit because the screw was too big that I used, but if you look at our reinforced hook, we do not have those same issues, at least not nearly to the same degree. So yeah, you can see it's still deformed a little bit, but it really held its shape. Bodes well for the test about to come. So let's go get some weights and start stressing these things out. Okay, here we are, the testing grounds. On this pole here, we have our 20% infill hook ready to be tested. I've got this rope attached to this bucket, and I'm going to be loading various heavy things up in the bucket, and we're just going to see at what point this thing breaks. Then we're going to move over to the stronger one and see how well that one holds up. Smaller brick. Alright, well, so far I'm very surprised by this. Yeah, this print probably doesn't need reinforcements. I don't know how much weight this is, but definitely beyond a reasonable expectation for a standard 3D print, so that answers that question. This particular print, it's definitely overkill to do the reinforcement technique, but let us continue for science. Alright. I am running out of space in this bucket, so hats off to PETG. This stuff is definitely not giving up without a fight. As you can see, it's kind of wiggling. I've got this bucket all filled up with bricks, so I'm just going to put some pressure on the hook, and oh, it's actually breaking. Speak of the devil. Oh, here it goes. Just the slightest bit more pressure, and this is where our failure point is. Brace for impact. That's all she wrote. Alright, let's move on to... Okay, here we are at the reinforced hook. Same setup, and I'm just going to straight away put the full weight that just broke our 20% hook onto this one. So we'll see exactly how much it deforms this thing, and if we can even get it to break this thing. I am skeptical, but let's find out. This is not light. Okay, rope on the hook, and here we go. Look at that. I'm not seeing any deformation. There might be a little bit, but yeah, and you can see maybe a little bit how much weight is in there. It's deforming the bucket itself, and this hook is hanging on. We'll apply that same little bit of pressure as from the last one, and alright, I'm giving it a lot more pressure now. So there you go. All of that structural stability is coming from the resin and the metal rebar that we have in there. And our PETG, also still strong, it's PETG, but it's just acting as our shell to hold all of our structurally integral materials in place. So, dang, I don't even know how to test this more. I'm gonna put my weight on it. I'm just gonna pull. Okay, so we got a little bit of a crack. That is, I mean, I'm pulling down. I am north of 150 pounds. I don't know exactly. I'm just not having any luck. So, but we did get some bending. We do have a little bit of cracking there, but we are definitely putting way too much pressure on this thing. And let's see. Yeah, it bent a little bit. See that? But I would not expect this thing to actually break anytime soon. So, there you go. There's your demonstration. I'm going to go see how much all that stuff weighed, and I'll be right back. And here be the two 3D prints post-experimentation. As you can see, this one definitely had a point of failure right at that junction right there. This one tried to, but was able to hold up. Even the screwing through the middle with the too large of a screw made much less of an impact on our resin and rebar experiment. So there you go. So I'd say that is definitely a successful test. Now, why would anyone want to do this? Well, I think if you're looking to print something that needs to be more structurally durable than 3D printed filaments can offer you, I think it could be a good option. Also, it's probably cheaper to do something like this than to print something like this with 100% infill. It certainly took a lot less time. So, I don't know, stuff for you to consider. I'm not saying do or don't do anything. I'm just messing around. I'm gonna go, I don't know, find some heavy coats. Oh, I forgot to tell you how much that bucket weighed. That bucket weighed just shy of 40 pounds by the time I had loaded it up with all those bricks. So 40 pounds plus a little bit of my body weight. I'm talking like barely pushing on it, broke this. And then 40 pounds plus a good bit of my real body weight failed to crack our resin and rebar monstrosity. So with that, we are going to call it a day. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, if you learned something, it would mean a lot to me. If you hit that like button and that subscribe button and rang the bell, all of that stuff helps out with the algorithm. Lets YouTube know that you liked my video and pushes it out to more people. So thanks a lot if you're interested in doing that. All right, everybody, take it easy, and I'll see you next time.